Hi, and welcome to Learning with Mrs. Lasley. So today I'll be talking with you about a couple tips to help you with distance learning in the fall for your kiddos. So first and foremost, we've got another month of summer until school starts. I know this is the time, especially during all of the COVID responses, that schools are deciding to share with parents what their plan is for the fall. And at least in the Spokane area, we have been told that distance learning is what the option is as of right now. And I know this seems very daunting to all of you parents out there. I think a lot of us feel that whether it's distance learning or in-person learning or complete homeschool, if you decide to go that route, there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to every piece and part. And I think we're all kind of working together and just kind of taking each day as it comes. This is going to be a tricky fall. There's just no way around it. But I think that if we come at it with a positive attitude, I think we're going to come out of it better for it. This is just a little bit tricky, but I think if we all work together, it'll work out. So a couple things I wanted to share with you for distance learning. So one of these tips for distance learning is establishing routines and expectations. This is super important, especially since now you're at home all day long with your kiddo trying to basically be teacher and parent, which is definitely difficult because the job of parent is stressful enough. Now you're adding the job of teacher onto it. And so there has to be this whole different level of respect that they now have to give you, since you are not only kind of teacher and parent as well. So establishing routines and expectations is going to be really vital for your guys' success, both for yours and for your child's success. Coming up with schedules to do every single day, so everything is consistent. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be flexible, but coming up with a schedule for what your day is going to look like during the school year is going to be really helpful for you and your kid. Also creating expectations, so breaking it down for your kiddo and saying, hey, look, this is what the fall looks like, and this is how we're going to do school this year. These are the things I need from you every single day, and these are the things that I can help you with every single day. And if we can do all of these things and meet the schedule, then we can have a great rest of our day and we can successfully get through the end of the year, right? So establishing those routines are going to be really, really helpful. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to be flexible. So ultimately, this is a new experience for everybody. Don't feel like you have to have a perfect schedule and all of these things in the very beginning. Because let's be honest, you probably won't. Your schedule probably needs some tweaking, because every schedule does, and it's just not going to be, I think, as seamless as we theoretically want. It's going to be a little rough in the beginning, but once you adjust the schedule and move things around a little bit, I think you're going to find that you're going to be able to come up with consistent times and locations and doing all different things for your schedule. Not to mention, another suggestion for routines and expectations is chunking up times. So allowing yourself to say, okay, this chunk of the morning will be used for math and science, and then you guys get a little break, and then this chunk of the day will be used for this. It doesn't necessarily mean that math has to happen at 9 a.m. sharp and has to end at 10 a.m. sharp. Basically just chunking your time so that way it's a little bit more manageable. And also understanding that transitions are going to take a lot of your day. That is something that I have learned over and over again with creating schedules for kids, is that transitions take more time than you ever thought that they would take. They just do. So keep in mind when you're making your schedule, allow for some time in between each activity, because realistically, your kid's going to want a snack, there's going to be some distraction, they're going to be wanting to change their outfit for the millionth time. I mean, there's always going to be something that happens in between each activity that's going to take a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to create expectations and routines. It's important to also be flexible and be realistic. Not everything is going to work to schedule every single day. It just won't. But trying to keep those routines as best you can is going to be helpful, especially since your child won't have to constantly ask you what's going on next. If there's a schedule, if there's things in place, they should just know where to go, right? Another tip would be to create a workspace. So just like I know a lot of parents work from home or they work remotely. And I think that those parents really understand the need to create a workspace. And what I mean by that is a couple different things. So making sure it's comfortable. So if you're sitting down, let's say we're doing distance learning with our kids, right? So these kids are sitting down theoretically for like 5 to 6 hours worth of work. That's a lot. So whatever space they are in, it needs to be conducive for their learning, which means it has to be comfortable, right? So if they're going to sit there for hours on end, and we'll get to that a little bit more later, but if they're going to be sitting for hours in a chair looking at a screen, it needs to be a comfortable scenario. So not something that they're constantly contorted in a crazy way. They need to be sitting up straight and being comfortable. It also needs to be quiet. So not a lot of distractions. They need to be able to focus and really get all of their learning in for that time, so they're not constantly getting behind on things. Lighting is another important thing, making sure that wherever your child is working for that day, the lighting is really good, because that's going to be really important. And also keeping an eyesight of parents. So wherever the workspace is for your child, I would definitely consider keeping it definitely within eyesight of you as the parent. There's a lot of reasons for that, obviously. I mean, you want to be able to help for them when they need it. There's also internet safety, too. I mean, I know that a lot of kids are getting more familiar with being online because of the school system, but there's also that element of, if your child has full access to internet all the time, it might be wise to make sure to kind of teach them how to properly search the internet and do it safely. So keeping that eyesight of them is going to be helpful for them to be able to call you over if they need it, and also for you just to check and make sure that everything is being safe and they know what they're supposed to be doing. Another tip is stay in touch with teachers. So if you're doing distance learning with a public school, then you will have a teacher that's going to be working with you one-on-one, just like what you would theoretically have if you guys went into in-person school. So don't be afraid to reach out to the teacher. If you're having questions or you're concerned, reach out to that teacher, because that teacher is there for a reason. And even though you guys might feel a little more disconnected because of the distance learning, that teacher wants to be there for you and help you in any way that he or she can. So don't be afraid to reach out to administration or teachers or anybody that you can think of that can help you, because that's what they're there for. Even more than that, also reaching out to friends. So if you've got other parents or other associates that might be able to help you feel a little less stressed or be able to answer some questions, this is the time to ask for help. Nobody needs to be the hero here. It's going to be a troubling fall and year if you're unwilling to ask for help, because we're all kind of learning the system. And so ask for as much help as you need, especially the teachers. That's what they're there for. Another tip is finding times for movement and also finding times for quiet space. So if your child is now sitting in front of a screen for multiple hours a day, realistically, I would suggest, especially in your schedule, when you're creating a schedule, find times for movement. So if you're seeing that your child is sitting there for 30, 40 minutes, up to an hour, I would invite them to stop what they're doing and go move. That could be exercising, it could be dancing around the living room, it could be outside, jumping on the trampoline. It could be a lot of things, but even 5 or 10 minutes of some exercise in between those large chunks of screen time and sitting down is going to be very, very helpful. Kids' attention span, and I have some articles on my website, so you guys can look into that if you'd like. But kids' attention span is fairly short. The most they can probably offer you is about 30 minutes of focused attention time, and that's generous. So I would seriously consider inviting your child to move whenever they're feeling a little bit antsy. If they're sitting down and they cannot focus and they're getting maybe even a little bit stressed or frustrated, right there and then, that's them telling you in their own subtle way that they need some movement. So get them up, get them moving. And then on the other flip side of that is also creating some quiet time. So allowing your child during the day to take a break and do something that they enjoy, or maybe, reflecting on how they did that day, or maybe reading a book, or doing something that they enjoy that kind of calms them down if they're feeling stressed. Because let's be honest, this is going to be kind of a tricky fall if we're constantly just going, go, 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 go. You have to do school during this time. It's going to be really stressful. You can't take any breaks. It's just going to be more work than it's worth. And I think ultimately it's going to create a dislove of learning, which we really, really don't want. We want the kids to still be engaged in learning, even in this new capacity. So encouraging your child to move constantly throughout the day is going to help them. And then also allowing them to kind of have some downtime, even if that's just a few minutes, maybe in between tasks, maybe after, just something to kind of bring them down and allow them to know that, hey, it is a little bit stressful, but you still can take breaks if you need to, especially if they're asking for a break. Take it. Now, I'm not saying take a break every few minutes because they're saying I need it. It's important to challenge them and encourage them to keep moving forward. But if they need a break and it's been a while, it's worth it. Give them 5-10 minutes. It'll be worth it. And finally, manage stress. So this applies to both your child and you. It's going to be a trickier fall. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think it will be a very interesting fall. We're going to learn a lot of new things, and I think you can really bond with your child even more if you're working with them one-on-one, even though it feels frustrating. This is kind of a cool opportunity for you to really bond with your child. On the flip side, there's going to be times where it's really stressful. So take time for you. So don't forget, you as a parent, make sure that you are grabbing that cup of coffee when you want it, or reading that book when you really want to, or like just sitting in your room with no distractions for a few minutes if you need it. Like, don't feel bad to take breaks. You're not a bad parent. You're not a bad distance learning teacher if you just take breaks for yourself. And make sure to focus on you too, because if you're really burnt out and exhausted and frustrated, then look at it this way. If you're really exhausted, you're not going to be able to help your child to the best of your ability, right? So give you some you time if you need it. It's totally understandable. Your kid will understand, and that's really you being the best parent and distance learning teacher as possible. Teachers do that too. We're conscious of when we need break, and we try to take it. And that's the same for your child. Just remember, be flexible, be patient. It'll be a good fall. Okay, so please make sure to like and subscribe my video if you like what I'm posting. Please make sure to also check out learningwithmrslasley.com. I will post new resources every single week, and a lot of these resources will help you with distance learning in the fall. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and happy learning.